Hey brothers and sisters, Matt Hatton here. So we have a special video today. We're going to take a deep dive into war strategy and more specifically how our alliance approaches it. So it definitely works well for our alliance, and I'm hoping that this video will help you in your alliance, whether you have an established alliance and you're just trying to improve some of the aspects of how you approach war, or maybe you're just starting a new alliance. And you don't really know how to approach communicating about war, setting up some kind of minimum guidelines. So we'll go through all that today. So let's jump into it. So as far as war, there are two sides of war. There's obviously the offense side, and then the defense side, which applies to kind of how you're approaching your tanks, as far as what tanks you're putting on the board for your different teams. With our alliance, the peanut gallery does have 3 spots open right now. We have a 2400 cup requirement, so if you want a later mid-tier alliance, feel free to send us an invite. We would love to have you. And then the peanut farm is not really a beginner alliance anymore. I would say it's more of a low mid-tier alliance. They're currently fighting 7 to 8 star titans comfortably, and they have 5 slots open as well. So if you have 1200 cups, feel free to check out the peanut farm. Both of these alliances follow the strategy that we're about ready to go over. So if you like what you see and you want to join in, check us out. As far as the rules of engagement, we'll go over a couple of the rules that specifically apply to war that we've set up in our alliance, but the main thing here is you just want to set clear expectations. This goes for both war and titans. Anytime you're expecting your alliance members to show a certain level of participation, or if you have a certain strategy that you want to follow, you just need to be clear about that up front. So that everybody understands what they're getting into. And then, if you get into a situation where maybe somebody's not a great fit, at least both sides knew, what was going on from the beginning. And I think it'll make it a lot easier to kind of maybe work through potential confirmation or confrontations or, situations like that. As far as our first rule that applies to war, we do say war is optional in our alliance. We put the responsibility of ticking or unticking the war flag participation on the individual member. If they don't have quite enough teams to participate in war, but they want to be active in Titan killing, that's fine. Also, real life happens, so we don't require people to be online every week and be fighting in war. If they want to untick and sit out a war or two, that's fine. We do have minimum expectations as far as staying involved at least on the Titans while they're not active in war. But overall, we just we try and take a relaxed approach as possible. But we do have a very firm expectation as far as flag usage. So in our alliance, if you leave even just one flag on the war battlefield, it is going to be an immediate demotion after the war is over. This is not really designed to be harsh on players. It's really designed to create a safe and trustworthy environment among the players that are putting in a lot of effort and time to compete in war, and using their time to attack and really trying to win the war. It's not really fair to have a member leave a flag or multiple flags on the board. So we try and crack down on that immediately. We did just have a example of this last week where we lost a war by, I believe, 18 points, and we had 3 flags that somebody had left and not used. So that was a situation where we had to unfortunately remove that person from the alliance, which isn't always fun to do. But I think it's more important to set an expectation for the members that are active in your alliance that you're going to be looking out for them as part of the leadership of the alliance, and not allowing players just to kind of slack off or really just sit in the alliance and not participate. So the next rule, it's a more positive rule, but we do demote if you don't use a flag, but if you do fully participate in 2 rounds of war back to back, you are going to get a promotion. So it's easy to get back to where you were. Everybody has a bad week, so if you missed a flag or something came up and messed up, it's bad in the short term, but you can be back at the same rank before you know it. And then I think as far as promotions, it's also important to set a clear expectation for your members that are active and want to get promoted or want to eventually take on a leadership role. I think it's really you got to be harsh and set the rules as far as when people are demoted or removed. But you really need to have a rule that shows the positive side, to encourage people to be active and take on a larger rank or role if that's what they want to do. So the next rule is basically with our selected tank elements. We do select a specific element each war, but that is strongly encouraged, not required. The reason why we don't require it is because some of our team members may not have a tank that's strong in that element. Good news is we do have options or suggestions as far as how they can still help. But if you don't have the tank, but you have 6 teams and you want to participate in war, participate in war. We definitely would love to have you, and you can just pick a rainbow team or whatever your strongest defense is that you want to use, and we'll be fine. We win more wars than we lose. I'll put it that way. So as far as the designated tank, I mean, one of the core game mechanics behind it that leads to this type of strategy is just really the basic strengths among the different elements, and then more importantly, the weaknesses. It is important to keep in mind, with nature, fire, and ice, it is a triangle, so each one has a designated strength element that they are strong against, and each one has a weakness. But when it comes to holy and dark, because there's only 2, essentially they're strong against each other. But when it comes to the strength against the same element, holy is going to be just average. It's not weak or not great, and then dark is not weak or great against dark. So this is worth mentioning right now because we're going to talk about a flank option if you don't have the right tank in a second here. So another reason why people pick a specific element for the whole alliance is to force the enemy team to run out of the element heroes that are strong against your tank, with the assumption that over time, as the war goes on, as they run out of heroes, it's going to make it harder and harder for them to take out your tanks on your defense team. So you're really trying to exhaust the resources of the enemy team within a specific element, so you can design strategy around that and kind of create a potential weakness for them, and then you can exploit it later. So as far as no nature tanks, if you, for example, this week did not have a nature tank that you could put on the board, then you can easily run dual nature flanks. You would still be putting some nature heroes on the board with 2 flanks. It's a chance that a lot of the attackers are going to see those 2 flanks and try to spec into that with fire because the nature are going to be weak against that. So you're helping to exhaust those fire heroes on the enemy team. And then with something like a dual nature flank, you could put an ice tank out front because the ice tank would be strong against fire attacks. So the enemy attacking team would have to choose if they want to lean into the weakness of the nature heroes at your flank and use fire, or they want to attack the ice tank as well. So you're kind of creating a confusing situation for them where either your tank is going to be in good shape or your flanks are going to be in good shape. So similar scenario, I'll just go through the ice and the fire quickly. But if you don't have an ice tank, you could run two ice flanks. And then in this situation, you'd probably want to put a fire tank out front. And then if you don't have a fire tank during that week, then I would say run 2 fire flanks. And then you could put a nature tank out front. As far as the no holy or dark tank, because there's only 2 elements at play and they're not being strong or weak against each other, the dual flank alternative can work, but it's not going to be as effective for the main reason that, say you put a holy tank out front and you have 2 dark flanks. If they use dark attack to focus on your tank, they're still going to have normal damage against your 2 flanks or vice versa. So you're not really able to create a situation where your flanks and tanks are creating a strength or a weakness situation that the attacker has to deal with. So just keep that in mind. So for the most part, I think going forward, at least for the foreseeable future, we're probably going to be sticking to 3 tank element colors, which would be nature, fire, and ice, and avoiding the holy and the dark unless the specific battle mode kind of calls for a dark or a holy. So as far as the battle aids that are active, so we'll go over the 3 original ones and then we'll talk about the 3 new ones that are in play now. So attack boost is giving each defending hero a plus 10% attack bonus that cannot be dispelled. So one thing you want to keep in mind when you're putting together a defense team is that if you are going to be given a increase in attack, you might want to stack a couple stronger heroes on your defense team. So if they can survive and weather the attacks of the enemy team and charge up, then after 5 turns, you know that their attack is going to be 10% higher than it normally would be. So just an idea there. As far as arrow barrage, it is very annoying. It's an attack that does 25% damage to all of your heroes based on their current health. So with this in mind, you just want to maybe consider not going in with a defense team that has no healing on it, because there is going to be a constant tick that's happening about every 5 turns of this arrow barrage that's going to be taking out a significant amount of damage in addition to any specials that are coming at you or tile attacks. So definitely healers are going to be a big important part of this defense team during this battle aid mode. And then for field aid, each defending hero will recover 20% of their total health. So this is kind of the opposite situation. You can afford to maybe go in with a heal over time healer, or something that provides healing a little bit slower, because you're getting a 20% health from the game mechanic. And so maybe you can switch some heroes out and maybe just bolster your attack a little bit. But that's, there's probably a lot to that strategy, but we're not going to go too deep on these. As far as the next battle aid mode, we have Undead Horde, which is one of the more recent ones. This is giving all heroes a skeleton minion with 10% HP and 10% attack from their owner. So the thing about this, as far as the defense is concerned, is the way I approach is I don't have Grimble, but if I did have Grimble, I'd probably put him on my defense, because you know that the attacking team is going to be getting minions regardless from the game mechanic. So Grimble increases in power or usability with more minions on the board. And but the hero I do have that I use is Gefjon, so I put her as a wing because I know the enemy team is going to have minions, so she can steal that minion and then give her an additional minion on top of what the game mechanic is already giving her. So, just keep the minions in mind and use heroes that might benefit from multiple minions on the board, because that attacking team, no matter what heroes they have, they're guaranteed that they're going to have at least one minion if they're alive within 5 turns. And then, the other thing that a lot of people forget about Undead Horde is that it actually takes 5 turns to trigger or less. So what this means is basically if you have 5 heroes on the board, it's taking you 5 turns to trigger that minion effect. But as the hero count decreases, the time to trigger the horde actually increases. So for example, if there are 3 heroes left, then the Undead Horde mechanic is triggering every 3 turns. If a hero on the other side of the board that you're attacking or on your defense is the only hero left, that means every turn a Undead Horde minion is spawning. So don't forget about this part of this battle aid, because it can be significant, and it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially when you're on offense and attacking. The next mode or battle aid is called War Equalizer. This is removing all status effects, buffs, and debuffs from all heroes. So the way that I approach this is just avoiding any type of damage over time or heal over time wherever I can. I try to go with burst damage or burst healing, for the main reason that on defense you can't really control the timing of your heroes as far as what they're doing. So any overtime effect could work poorly. If you have more control on an offense, you can work around this. Just wait for the War Equalizer battle aid to go off, and then you could apply your heal over time or damage over time right after. But on the defense, it does create a little bit of a problem. So you want to try and avoid anything that's relying on some effects that take maybe 2, 3, or 4 turns to fully go into effect. The next option or battle aid is probably one of my favorites, which is fast mana. It's essentially taking the mana speed for all heroes and moving it up to very fast. So when you're attacking on offense, that's only 6.5 regular tiles to charge a special. And then if you ghost 3 tiles, it's fully charging this special. And then the reason why I like it on a defense team is because you can bring in heroes like Alfreak that normally run at slow mana speed, or any other slow hero for that matter, and because they're now running it very fast, you can have a lot of firepower and a lot of great specials on the board. Traditionally, a slow hero will have better attacks or better specials because they're running at slow mana speed. But if you have those heroes in this mode, you can basically put them on the board and they're all running at fast. So it's a pretty cool mode, in my opinion. It basically turns it can go real good or real bad fast. I'll leave it at that. So as far as offense, the key to offense is really not only looking at who you're attacking, but as an alliance, really maintaining good communication. So I have a trick that I've seen in the community that's definitely worth passing on. A lot of people don't think this way, but it makes communicating about the targets, as far as if someone says, who should I attack, it makes it a lot easier to have those conversations with your alliance, so you don't have to be typing out names. So if you take a look at the battlefield as far as the defending enemy team, it actually creates a grid. So with this grid, if you look at it as columns A, B, C, and D, and E running from left to right, and then the rows being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 running from top to bottom, you can actually create a unique 2-character identifier for each cell or grid on the map. So if you were to apply that to an enemy team, like this example, you could see clearly that each hero has a unique identifier. So if, say, B1 was weak, instead of having to worry about typing out the name of that hero and someone said, who should I attack, I could just say, why don't you take a look at B1 and D5 as potential teams that you might want to go after. So it's just, it's pretty easy to get your head around what's going on here. And if everybody in the alliance is communicating this way, it's a real good trick as far as like kind of just making communication a lot faster and easier, and you don't have to type so much. So the question of who should I attack, basically in general, you just want to make sure you're attacking at your level. That's not your level and below. That's basically, you want to make sure that you're attacking. If you're a higher powered team, you want to attack higher powered teams. You don't want to attack lower powered teams if you don't have to. Vice versa, if you're a low-powered team, you want to attack low-powered teams. You don't want to attack high-powered teams. So just be very careful as far as which targets you're choosing to attack. Don't punch down, but don't try and punch up too much either, because you're probably just going to be wasting points that could potentially otherwise go to your alliance's total score. The other thing I see a lot is don't waste flags on Hail Marys early in war. A lot of people get excited once war starts, and they say, I just want to use all 3 of my flags as quickly as possible. It's fine if you're a high-level team and you're thinking strategically. But again, even in that situation, take your time and think about who you're attacking. Don't just go in and, just use all your flags quickly and just, assume, well, if it doesn't go well, I've got a whole bunch of other people in the alliance with flags. I mean, just, take your time and think strategically. And there sometimes is an advantage not to using your 3 flags, in the first 10 minutes of when war has started. So, just chill out a little bit sometimes. The other thing is, when in doubt, ask. If you're not sure who to attack, ask your alliance. I've never been in an alliance that had any problem with responding to people that ask. People love to give advice as far as who to attack. And the good thing about it is every time you ask, when you get an answer, not only are they going to usually tell you who to attack, but why. So it's a really great way to learn and learn kind of how different people in your alliance think about their attacks. And then over time, before you know it, when a question comes up as far as who to attack, it's going to be you answering, not asking. So it's a really cool aspect of the game of how to learn. So just be vocal and, don't be shy, and don't worry that because you have to ask who to attack, it's making you look like a bad player, because that is not the case. And then, the other thing that a lot of people forget about is use flee if you need to. If you're attacking a team and it's getting into a tight situation and maybe you can only take one last hero on the board, but you're saying, oh, well, I'll just move some tiles around and see if I get lucky and take out, 1 or 2 of the other heroes on their team. Don't take that risk if it's a healer that has revive or heal, because you could end up losing anyway, and then what you're doing is resetting those teams or filling up the health of the enemy team for like the next person in your alliance that might have had a chance, maybe a weaker team that had a chance to winning, and now they're going to struggle because those heroes are back from the dead or they're fully healed up. So just don't forget that you have the flee option. I'll leave it at that. So when should I attack? We don't have a specific rule in our alliance. We try not to tell people how to play. We just try and set minimum expectations and then kind of let people have fun with it. I would say even if you don't have a rule, the general rule of thumb on this is the top 15 members, and by top 15 I say that not cup level but power level. They should generally be the ones that are attacking early, and they should be leaving cleanups for the weaker or the bottom 15 players in your alliance. They have a little bit more flexibility, but then the second group would be the bottom 15 players. They should generally wait until weak targets are available. That does not mean that people have to sit around and wait for cleanups. If there are weaker teams that are on the board at the start of war, you can attack those as well. But if you're a lower level of team power versus kind of what the average team power is in that war, then don't rush in and be one of the first people to attack. Just give it a few minutes. A lot of times within like 20 or 30 minutes of war, there's going to be some options on the board. And then just as a reminder again for the high level players, you don't have to do your own cleanups in the first round of attacks in war. It's definitely beneficial not only to avoid the weaker teams but also leave the partial teams for the other members that might not have as quite as high of a team power. The other thing to keep in mind, and the reason why I say it's not a good idea for the higher level players to clean out all the low level, is because sometimes people will say, oh, well, I'll attack the weaker targets, and then the weaker level players are going to be online later anyway, so by the time they get on, if we haven't reset the board, those heroes or those teams will be back. But people forget that the revive timer actually increases. So the first time you defeat a team, it's going to be 6 hours that they come back, which is relatively short. But if a higher player level kills that team and then says, oh, it'll reset, the weaker level team comes on board and is able to attack that team. If it was a target that they might want to be able to attack again later, they're going to have to wait 8 hours now. The third time that a team is defeated, 10 hours, the fourth time is 12. So by the time you get to where you're killing the same team over and over, the time to respawn is getting so long that you're really not going to have enough time to take advantage of maybe a weaker team that you should have left for your weaker teams. Hope that makes sense. So how should I attack? Again, we don't make a lot of rules as far as what people should do. We just try and provide support and guidance as far as kind of some best practices. In general, I would recommend, looking at your 4-1 or 3-2 teams that are strong against the priority targets. I think the default priority target most of the time is going to be the tank. So try and create teams that are strong against that, but that's not always the case. The priority target could be a flank or a wing, depending on what that defense team has. And then, mono teams can be clutch near the end of the war. I'll be honest with you, I use mono teams a lot of times at the beginning of the war too. So whether it's a mono team or a 4-1 or a 3-2, the reason why these are not rainbow teams is because you're really trying to not only take advantage of good heroes that match up well against the team you're attacking, but you want to take as much advantage of the increase in tile damage as you can. Because sometimes in some of the different war modes, the tiles and the increase in tile damage on a specific element can mean the difference between victory and defeat. So just an example, this is not saying, okay, let's dive deep into how attack this defensive team if you run up against it. I'm just trying to show an example of kind of how I think about the teams I'm attacking to maybe set a good example of that I really think about who I'm attacking and I don't just go into guns blazing and just waste all three of my flags. So in this example, say you have a Telluria and a Vela as a tank flank combo, Seshat as a wing, and then you have Mitsuko as the first flank, and then you have a Vivica or another healer on the wing one. What I would say when I look at this team is I'd say, okay, out of the get-go, although Vela is very threatening, I would say maybe Telluria or Seshat are the two primary targets that I want to get off the board quickly or team up against as far as element-wise, because both of those heroes, if you let them go too long, they're going to get way out of hand. So in this case, I'd say, okay, well, let's go in with a 3-2 team. I'm going to go in with 3 fire that's going to be strong against the tank, and then I'll have 2 of the holy that are going to be strong against my secondary priority target, which is Seshat. So in this case, with this team, I've got 3 fire heroes. They're taking advantage of Element Link. That's going to give them a buff from Gravemaker. And then, obviously the 3 fire heroes are going to be strong against Telluria. So I'm going to get that tile damage increase as well. And then the second reason why I would choose these heroes is basically for Vela, because now, even though Seshat is going to be great to get off the board, I do want to still be able to deal with Vela, which in my opinion is the second priority as far as attack that's going to be coming in. So with Mitsuko on the board, she's going to be able to reflect all Vela's ice attacks, and she won't be able to take care of the water damage, but hopefully with June as Wing 2, he'll be able to blind Vela so that if she goes off, June is basically on the board to not only provide a nice snipe attack, but to maybe help the team avoid any of the water attack. And then obviously with Vivica and June together with Holy, I'm getting a little bit more tile damage. And then with Vivica, she's going to be able to dispel any of the effects that I need to take off the board. So this is just, kind of one strategy. I'm not saying this is a video about how to attack different defenses, but I do try to put this level of thought into each flag that I use. Not so much because I'm trying to get as many points as I can, but really trying to be an effective member of my alliance in war, more importantly. And then, just another thing with this build, which is nice, is because I noticed Mitsuko on the board that reflects ice attacks, I'm using Mitsuko in the same way against Vela, but I don't have any ice heroes on my team that I'm going up against, or that I'm going up against the defense with, so I don't have to worry about any of that damage reflecting. And then the last target that I'd say to go after generally on defense teams is the healer, especially a slow healer, because if they're tucked away and they're not really charging up their mana too much, you can kind of just leave them alone and just go in with the targets that are going to be either doing a lot of damage to you or really doing crazy stuff with putting minions out front of the defense team. So the last word that I'll say about wars, just to wrap it up, is, I just want to say that I have ran into conflicts in this game, like I think most players that have played it for, a couple weeks or longer have run into. It doesn't really happen or take too long. Most of the conflicts, or 90%, are around war. So that's why I thought this video was important, because a little communication goes a long way with war. And, I would just say, just remember that everybody's a human being and we're all playing this game to have fun. So, just communicate a little bit, follow some good strategies. Most importantly, lay out those strategies or communicate those to your alliance. And I think it will improve the overall experience and the culture of your alliance, or the general vibe. It will increase it a lot, so as far as the rules of engagement, I'm going to close the video out, but I'll cover the number 1 rule that we have, which kind of goes off of, or piggybacks off of what I just said, is, our number 1 rule is no salty nuts. Keep it civil and respectful. Everybody that is playing this game that's active is really trying to learn and get better. And it's very easy through text to misinterpret somebody's comment as far as how they say it as being like ill-spirited or mean, or they're just being a real jerk about it. But you got to I always go in with the assumption that everybody is trying to be positive, and generally people are good. So if this video makes sense to you and you think it'll help out your alliance, please share it with your newer members, or if you're brand new and you're starting alliance, I wish you the best of luck. I think if you use some of these rules, it'll really help you to get off to a great start. But without further ado, we will close this video out. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care, everybody.